Okay guys, I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm just recording from my phone, just because I was just in the middle of this clutch job and decided to break out a video just for a comparison. Now, this video here is completely unbiased. I'm not sponsored by any of these guys, don't get any deals with these guys. It's simply I'm replacing clutch and I want to compare them side by side. Now, for this instance, these are for a 24 valve VR6. This one belongs to a Volkswagen R32. This guy here is actually for the R32 engine for the Rabbit build. So the 24 valve VR6 for these guys are the R32 engines. Now, going a little bit forward, we are actually going to do a comparison between the Southbend clutch and the Clutch Masters clutch. These are both in the range of about 400-ish foot-pounds. So they are in direct competition with each other. But this one's the Southbend Stage 2 Endurance clutch. This is the FX400. So Stage 2 Endurance clutch is a little bit more street-oriented. FX400 is based more for track and high performance, but they're both rated for about the same foot-pound rating. Now, I'm going to start off with the pressure plate, then go friction disc, and then go flywheel. Now, for just a little bit spoiler already, is the flywheels are pretty much the same, and both brands use it for their different series or different models for their clutches. So, for instance, for Clutch Masters, they use it on their 2, 3, 4, 500 series clutches with a single mass, and Southbend actually uses the same flywheel for their line as well. So you can kind of see that you can always upgrade the pressure plate and flywheel accordingly. Now, going forward, we're going to look at pressure plate. So a lot of companies actually use an OEM branded company for their pressure plates or flywheels to begin with, and then they modify a machine and do stuff from there on. Now, you can see that Clutch Masters uses a Sachs pressure plate, and then they modify it from there on. So first things first is you can see they obviously painted it red, but I don't know if they actually touched any of the inner ring at all, but they for sure touched the outer ring for their material. So the actual metal piece they changed out because you can see the strapping bolts were changed after it was painted. Okay. Now, doing the same thing for the Clutch Masters is you can see that there is no markings for different manufacturing. So you can't see Velo, you can't see Sachs markings anywhere. So they could very well be actually making their own ones and going from there on and building upon it. Now you can see directly here to here is, see they repainted over these guys, where the FX400 or Clutch Masters clutch kit here, these were replaced for sure. This is a completely different design and it's not painted over. You can see here, same thing with the strapping as well. Now, Clutch Masters seems to do a little bit better on the machining side and tighter tolerances, where Southbend is kind of sloppy, and you'll see why I say sloppy. So moving forward, we're going to start talking about the straps. Now, what ended up happening was this car had 6,000 kilometers on it, clutch was installed, and about 6 months later, about 7,000 kilometers, it broke right away at a car show. And you can see here that the straps actually failed. And believe it or not, Southbend did not want to warranty this, so I'm kind of putting you on blast here. But yeah, you kind of deserve it. But yeah, you can see that this is a twin strap design. See that? And this guy is a 3-strap design. So you can see that they are quite a bit thicker from one another, the Clutch Masters. Now, the next thing that you'll notice too is I'm going to go with hardware with the pressure plates. Southbend uses like a hex bolt for this revision, and with the hex bolts you have to put a socket on there, so it's a little bit harder to actually torque down properly, versus Clutch Masters uses a 12.9 Allen head bolt. So you don't really have to worry about tolerances or clearance. Now you can see here, keep in mind this strap is broken, so you can kind of see that it kind of moved a little bit. But this edge right here on this material will interfere with your socket. So if you go along, you can actually see it touches. Okay, so not crazy. It's actually bad machine work. Now on the Clutch Masters, you can actually see that they machine that out, so you can actually get a socket on it if they changed hardware. So you don't have the issue that Southbend has here. So you can see it's just a revision thing. So it could very well be that they will learn from this and then properly fix that, and maybe go with thicker straps in the future. Who knows? Next thing I noticed too was when you get into it a little bit further. Just going to take this off, go on to friction material at this point. We're going to talk about friction material. Now, friction material, you can see the FX400 is a 6-puck design. Clutch Masters is a hybrid design. So they use an organic material on one side, kind of like an OEM clutch. And then on the opposite side, they have an 8-puck design. See that? Now, again, with outsourcing, you can see that this friction material is actually made by Exedi. So it's not for Southbend exclusively. So it's just an Exedi friction material that they use. So this is kind of like a outsourcing kind of situation. I measured these guys. They are 240 millimeters from one end to the other. Same thing here, 240 millimeters. So that means basically I can take this, put it into here, and I can take this and put it into here, and I'm good. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Southbend flywheel a little bit, because it kind of bugs me, and you can see they did revisions to it to resolve some problems. I come from a family of people that did machine work and research and development, so you can kind of see as things progress. So you can see they drilled these holes here, most likely for balancing, but you can see on this fine edge, let's see if we can clean that up a little bit. See how thin that material is? It's a thin pick. So you can kind of see how that thin material is, and they had that too on the inner side. My assumption is that that material would actually break free and get caught up in the inside by your friction material. So what they did to fix that was they ground down this edge here a little bit further to get rid of that material in general. So you just have that, you just have an open edge. So you can see that was a revision, and by doing so they made the surface area thicker or wider, and that makes more slop. So for instance, you can see how tight it is here, but you can see on the Southbend clutch, lots of slop. So it's actually a fair bit. So if you push it up all the way, you can see the gap there. Here's the Clutch Masters. See the gap there. Now if you take this and put it onto this, look at that. A lot less slop. So you can see that's kind of a concern there. Now, one thing that Southbend does and Clutchmaster does is they're exactly the same. So in some ways. So height-wise, they're exactly the same. Ring gear-wise, they're exactly the same. And also depth, bolt, and dowels. So with that being said, is a little bit of a spoiler. I already took a caliper. See the depth here? It's exactly the same as this guy. So it's about like 30 millimeters, give or take. Now, with the bolt pattern being the same and the dowels being the same, it means that you can take Southbend pressure plate and friction disc and throw it on a Clutchmaster flywheel, and you can do the same thing as Clutch Master onto a Southbend. So they are universal. Now with that being said, that means if you had a Southbend previously or a Clutch Master previously, you can change pressure plate and friction material to whatever you need. So that kind of makes it kind of interesting for swappability wise between platforms. Now talking about the hybrid clutch friction material is kind of interesting because you can see that it's 8 puck on the flywheel side and organic on the pressure plate side, and for spec they did the opposite. 6 puck on one side, organic on the opposite, on the flywheel side. Now if you look at it, it's like a 6 puck almost from a Clutch Master, but their organic side is completely different. It's kind of cool. This is the one that's actually going for the rabbit build. But yeah, so that's basically an overview between the two and what I found between it. I had a lot of questions of guys going from Southbend to Clutch Masters and Clutch Masters asking about the Southbend. And this is basically what I found comparing the Stage 2 Endurance to the FX400. But they'll be the same mostly for a lot of their other models from their range. But yeah, that's kind of to summarize it, and that is end of video. Okay, goodbye.